What is the relationship between the pandemic, billionaires, lockdowns, the vaccine, and the middle class? I wanted to explore this topic, so I spoke with Dr. פיטר Breggen, who is a psychiatrist and an author. He explains some of the claims he makes in his book, COVID-19 and the Global Predators, We Are the Prey.
And what we look at is how the governments of the world have been really implementing a destruction of democracy. That COVID-19 in many ways can be explained as an effort really to level the democratic nations. If you look at all of the lockdowns, you look at the push to make sure that every single person caves in and gets the shots, even babies. If you look at the way of controlling small businesses and shutting them down and shutting the churches down, letting the great big box stores stay open. The great sports franchises have crowds of 20, 30, 40, 50, 100,000, but you can't get together and pray in a church or open your small business as easily. If you look at what's behind this, there's a huge shift of wealth going on from the middle class, even the upper class, to people who are really very high up in the global governance.
And you mentioned global predators are exploiting humanity. Can you explain who these global predators are?
Well, it's a gigantic shift of wealth. If you look at Klaus Schwab's organization and Bill Gates, they're working with all the pharmaceutical industry. They're working with the big banks to finance the pharmaceutical industry. They're working with the UN and the World Health Organization, which of course wants, to be in charge of the world. But what has happened is, we now have everything going international. Wealth shifting out of the United States, going to the rest of the world. Labor shifting out of the United States, going to the rest of the world. And COVID-19 is really a part of that process where wealth is being accumulated at the expense of the peoples of the world.
How is the modern psychiatry industry related to the pandemic?
Psychiatry historically has developed the idea that you can lock up and treat people against their will for their own good. And it goes back several hundred years with that principle. So my colleagues have really been on the cutting edge of doing good to people against their will. And furthermore, they're on the cutting edge of using drugs to control people and even using brain surgery to control people, something I organized against in the early 70s and really stopped. So a lot of this is the precursor of today, where we're going to control people for their own good, for their own health, and we're going to use drugs as a massive method of control. And now we're using vaccines as kind of the spearhead of dominating people.
Going back to Dr. Breggen's call on the note of the transfer of wealth during the pandemic, the world's 10 richest men doubled their incomes over the last 2 years. That comes as the incomes of 99% of people dropped in the same time period. That's according to a study by the group Oxfam.